It's happening here only, right? Yes, sir. Without attending the conference before that. It's happening here. Yes.
I think we have this study which says IBM
My colleague is also registered as
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, before I say anything, I would like to sincerely apologize for the delay. Actually, there was an event going on because of which this delay happened, and I sincerely apologize. On behalf of To The New and Amazon Web Services and DataQuest, it's my sincere pleasure to welcome you all to the Digital Transformation Summit, Impact on Media and Entertainment Industry. The summit aims to throw spotlight on the change which the media and entertainment industry has witnessed in the recent times. New entrants are challenging traditional players. New markets are becoming easily accessible for distribution. New technology is enabling consumption and revenue opportunities like never before. At the same time, shrinking revenues from traditional sources and increased spends in newer OTT and digital platforms are creating unprecedented pressure on broadcasters. Media and entertainment enterprises, therefore, need to reinvent the way they work, embracing digital transformation not only to survive, but to succeed in the digital era. Particularly, as the number of smartphone users have gone up in the recent years, media consumption on the phones have gone haywire. Print circulation and TRPs have taken the back seat. Hundreds of examples surface to mind when the competition in the traditional players is evaluated. Companies like Scoop Whoop, WorldSpeed, MissMalini.com, they have shown the new ways to the traditional media houses. So in this conference, there would be focus on guiding the enterprises, media and entertainment enterprises, and helping them to create new revenue models, distribute content on multiple devices and platforms, build omni-channel experience, provide superior performance, and increase engagement with the right kind of audience. All in all, the summit has an excellent line of speakers and sessions that will demystify the myths surrounding the use of digital platforms. This evening, it is our sincere effort that you are able to grab how you can harness the power of digital to make your business forward. First of all, I would like to invite our keynote speaker this evening, Dr. Jay Menon, who is Group Director, Technology, HT Media. But before I invite him, I would like to briefly tell you about his career graph. Dr. Jay Menon is a global technology leader who has spent more than 25 years in the technology space, out of which 14 years he has spent in the US market, which is a quite mature market, where he has worked at senior positions with companies like AT&T and IBM. Prior to joining HT Media, he has spent quite a big time with Bharti Enterprises, where he drove several projects under his leadership and helped the company grow on several fronts. So without further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Jay Menon on the stage. Please give a big round of applause for Dr. Jay Menon.
I'm just going to close this. Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm not going to use a presentation. Just going to share some perspectives. And I must say, coming back to media industry for now almost 4 years, it's been really exhilarating for me. So you might wonder why back to media industry. So I actually did a bunch of really fun stuff, really cool stuff in rich media. It, of course, goes back about 20, 25 years when I was in New York. And we built for the first time a very, very interesting progressive rich media player, which could play on the same window, so to speak, a combination of audio, video, 3D VRML, panoramic scenes, all interweaved and interleaved, and would do it through a player, because no such player existed at that point in time, which was downloaded in a progressive manner, and of course a rich media file that streamed. Now streaming, progressive players, all of these things were absolutely brand new 25 years or so back. These are given now today. So it was very interesting, and at that point in time, we were partnering with a company called DoubleClick, which is still around, which is trying to make banner advertising a little bit more interesting. So a lot of my work and a lot of my patents have been in the area of rich media, but of course 25 years back. So it's very exciting to be back in the media industry. And what I'd like to use the next 15 or so minutes and then open it up for Q&A is to share some perspectives of the kind of digital transformation that's going on now, which for me is a little bit of a deja vu, because I've sort of seen that many years back, and now I'm seeing a lot of it happen today. And it's been an honor and a privilege that I've had a chance to spend a decade and a half in the telecoms industry. And when you look at the telecom industry, there's been a very interesting transformation going on there as well, and it's still going on, where basically the industry moved from a voice industry to a data industry and now a content industry. And what's very interesting is the lines obviously are blurring between telecoms and media. And when OTT came in, and OTT came in a big way about 5 or so years back, one might argue a little bit sooner before that, but in a really serious way, where communications no longer required telecom providers, and of course content was their bread and butter in any case. So you see what's happening is, if you look at the 3 C's, which is content, communication, and commerce, if you look at the 3 C's coming together, you realize they're actually coming together in a very, very big way, be it you being a player in the telecom industry or be it you being a player in the media industry. It really doesn't matter. So all three, communications, content, and commerce, are all coming together. And obviously, all of that require the fourth C, which is context. And context has to do with everything, where you are, what time of day, where are you socially in your social graph, and so on and so forth. So the four Cs, it's a confluence of the four Cs that's really driving a lot of the digital transformation that I'm going to talk about. And so it's interesting, and I'm sure you're going to hear a very lively panel when you come about to the panel part of this discussion, that communications, content, commerce, all within a context are really converging. It's strange, everything is a C right now, but that's really what's happening. So just as in the telecommunications industry, you have the OTT players where people would prefer to make a Skype call or a WhatsApp audio call rather than make a mobile phone call. Just like that, even in today's media space, you've got the traditional players, such as Hindustan or HT Media, where I work right now, and you've got the pure play digital players. You're going to hear a lot of it in the panel, and the names that were mentioned. They're all coexisting, and business models are being evolved. So let me talk a little bit about digital transformation and kind of share the experience that I've been driving, or we've been driving at HT Media Group. The group, of course, is a very old group. It's actually approaching 100 years. And interestingly, if you look around the globe for companies that have lasted 100 years, you'll find very few. So built to last or good to great is not easy. And this has been a group that took a little bit of a while to jump onto the digital bandwagon. And so when we set about our transformation journey, we sort of asked ourselves one very simple question. Are we going to create a digital island, or are we going to drive transformation in a converged manner? And we came up with an answer that said we're going to drive it in a converged manner as an integrated transformation play, rather than create a different digital company and a different traditional company or your print company or radio company. So we drove our transformation, and we're still driving our transformation along 5 planks. And the transformation is more or less dubbed as E to I, going from an enterprise style of operation to an internet style of operation. And the 5 planks have to do with, first and foremost, what is the consumer or the customer looking for in terms of content consumption. So that's the behavior that we are trying to understand. The second plank is obviously the evolution of the business model from pure play print advertising to how do you monetize in the digital space. And that's not easy because we are driving this company for a P&L, not just for valuation. And so it's not just an eyeball game alone. And so how do you build it profitably is a very interesting question. The third plank is how do you then reorient your internal organization? Do you go hive off a separate organization to do digital stuff and keep the old traditional guys doing the print or radio for that matter? Or do you kind of bring it together? The fourth is, okay, depending on that strategy, how are you going to organize the spaces you're going to sit in? Are you going to have a different building, a different location? Or are you going to put them all together, same building, different floors, or the same floor? And finally, what's the underlying technology that you're going to use to make all of this stitch together and work well? And our answers to that, I'm going to work it backwards. I'm going to start with, well, not backwards, somewhere in the middle, and then work it backwards. I'm going to start with the strategy part where we said we're going to drive it as an integrated play, which I mentioned. And then we said on the people front, let's first talk about the space. We're going to create one integrated newsroom. And in this newsroom, we're going to create a whole bunch of content, be it for your newspapers or for your online properties. And of course, we do have a few pure play digital properties as well, like, for example, desimartini.com and so on and so forth. And we've kept those a little bit separate, but not that far apart. So they're also fairly well stitched, and there are bridges being built. So we took a conscious call to build an integrated newsroom, where in this newsroom, we've got the workspaces organized in a hub and spoke model, where based on the topics or based on the context or based on the domains that they're working in, be it sports or be it entertainment, et cetera, you've got both the traditional guys and the digital guys sitting together. And that was a very, very big and a bold move. And obviously what that meant is we need to now retrain some of our people. We need to reorient some of our people to be able to talk and walk digital while they also are doing stuff in the traditional world. So it used to be that our newsroom conferences used to be held around 4 in the evening. Now our newsroom conferences are held first thing in the morning. It's a 24/7 operation. So the same guy who's used to saying, all right, I'll wander into work at 11 in the morning, I just got to get the paper out only by night, it's completely changed his life. And that cultural transformation has been the most important and the most difficult part of the digital transformation that we're undergoing. And that's what is operational right now, not too far from here on KG Marg. We've got a very large 42,000 square foot integrated newsroom where all of this is running right now. I wish I could invite you in. Maybe some of you I can. But it's working. And it's live. And it took us about a year to get the people out, get the room built, bring them back in. But that is not the end of the job. That's just the beginning of the job. You've got to now retrain your people. You've got to teach them new skills. You've got to make them understand what Chartbeat really means. What does it mean to look at your analytics scores? You've got to make them understand what it means to really have your story trend. We've got large video walls, obviously, as you'd imagine, to look at all the trend analysis across both integrated and pure play digital plays. So we're changing the company. We're changing a 100-year-old company, and that's live, and that's happening as we speak. Now, to do that, you've not only got to retrain your people, you've got to inject new talent in, and you've got to mix the old and the new, both literally and figuratively. And that's another cultural challenge. And it's very interesting and very, I would say, somewhat easier to say, hey, let's go form a small startup, get all the youngsters in, bunch them in a room, and let them do what they want and have fun, and serve Kool-Aids and possibly margaritas. But it's another thing to say, hey, we're a listed company, heck, we're 2 listed companies, and start doing stuff that becomes a little cool, while you're also doing stuff for which your brand stands for certain things. So that's a very, very interesting thing. So if you really look at our day-to-day dynamics that's going on at work, the people aspect and the cultural aspect is the most important one. The space aspect, number 2, the space aspect has come together. That's frankly very easy to do. It's tables and chairs, some false flooring, a good ceiling, obviously good ambience, and some smart workspace management, and of course, a bunch of technology that powers all of it. That's done. Then comes to the tech stack. Now, the tech stack has to mirror the way you operate. If we really say the same guy or girl is going to write for your online channel, do your A/B testing, as well as create videos, while in the evening, the same thing after the A/B testing then gets finalized for the newspaper, you've got to figure out a technology platform that will allow you to do it in an integrated manner. So we've rolled out integrated CMSs. That's the same CMS that is used for stories that would go online and would also eventually find its place in the newspapers across all 150, 200 editions that we publish every day. And that's a bit tough. You've got to map your workflows, you've got to map your talent, and you've got to have this integrated CMS that works off of a common repository to be able to allow our content creators to do what they need to do, while simultaneously beginning to push hard on the video button. And the video button is beginning to be pushed hard, and that's an area where we're just beginning to grow, but obviously that's the future, and that's where everything will happen. So the technology platform has seen a rapid shift, and as we rolled out this technology platform, we embraced both E and I. We embraced large software packages, which are very enterprise style and require gobs of private cloud deployment, and gobs and gobs of both storage and compute running in our own private data center, as well as public clouds and CDNs that are needed to offer the offering to our consumers. So we've got a hybrid cloud that's running as we speak, and that's live. And while we've done that on the enterprise side, a lot of our properties, including some of our large publications, especially in the vernacular, have embraced open source. And we have not built it the enterprise style, we built it the internet style. And our pure play digital properties are all built the internet style. So there's a lot that has been done to embrace both enterprise style deployment as well as internet style DevOps that is needed to roll things out. So that's at the technology layer. So people, space, technology. That's the input. The output that comes out is a new form of content, new things that are coming out on our properties, be it Desi Martini, I don't know if some of you have seen it or not. We're starting to do some cool stuff over there. Obviously, our branded mastheads have got their own sites, be it HindustanTimes.com or Live Hindustan or Live Mint, etc. as well as other properties like Shine, which is our jobs portal, properties like HT Campus, which is allowing in the education space, and our new businesses in education. So be it StudyMate or Bridge, which are pure play new businesses, which are embracing digital. So Bridge, for example, is a business that is a blended learning where 80 to 90% is all digital, and there's only 10 to 15% of face-to-face. StudyMate is the opposite. So Bridge is focused and targeted at the continuing professional, whereas StudyMate is focused on the school students. And there it's 80 to 90% face-to-face and 10 to 15% digital. So the mix of brick and mortar and digital is there even in our education businesses. Radio, of course, is primarily radio and broadcast at this point in time, but there are a bunch of things we're doing in the digital space there, where we're getting radio, dedicated in-store radios that are being fed to thousands of stores. And so it's not about just taking the radio channel, so to speak, and playing it online, but it's about using things in a smart way. And as you can imagine, a lot of videos get produced as a result of a lot of stars coming over to our radio stations across the country. So in the business model and the consumption plank, so there is a continuing evolution. We're finding that obviously it's very difficult and very hard to get paid content. It's very hard, and but obviously native tends to get very interesting. I know there are many pure player digital players out here who will tell you a little bit more about native, what they can do. But probably the most exciting thing lies in the behavior and the consumption pattern, which is where analytics play a very, very huge role. And so if you look at the C's, the confluence of content, context, commerce, all within a certain context, if you look at all of that, obviously where technology is going to help us and will continue to help us is going to be in the areas of smarter video and more fine-grained video and video analytics. Is going to be in the area of AI and machine learning. I think that's going to be very interesting because that'll help us hone in a little bit more in terms of understanding behavior and understanding consumption, areas that we are beginning to experiment in and play around with. And of course, eventually, when you weave in context, context today, if you take in location, place, et cetera, has got a bunch of sensors everywhere, be it your automotive, be it your malls, et cetera. So IoT will weave in at some point in time. So we see this as a very exciting play for a traditional player, almost a 100-year-old company to say, we're going to go digital, to take a bold move that says we're going to do it integrated and not as a digital island, to say we're going to go about it with these 5 planks of transformation, people, most important, cultural, most important, most difficult, space, easier, technology, hard but solvable, and then leading to business models, difficult because you've got to run profitably, you're listed, and then, of course, understanding consumption behavior. And I'm sure all of us know that our next generations, the little kids that are out there, it's very hard to predict what they like, but we know one thing for sure, they'll never touch a newspaper. So it's very, very interesting. So I think we are blessed that we're living in a very interesting industry, media and entertainment. I feel very lucky to be part of this industry back again, almost after 20, 25 years of inventing some very interesting technologies at that point in time in the US. But probably some of the harder questions that face us is media and entertainment going to remain as an isolated industry? The comms guys, the telecom guys are here. So when you now see communications and content getting bundled, which is happening today, I'm not going to say it's going to happen in the future, it's happening today. What does that do to business models? Do the consumers pay for pipes or do they pay for content? When it's all bundled at a fixed fee, gone are the days of tariff plans. So I think business model innovation is going to be extremely challenging in the coming days. We've got to be smart about it. We've got to be smart about how we make and run businesses profitably. Fortunately, the appetite to consume content will only be insatiable, and it will always be on all screens. I've been talking about all screens for more than a decade now. And so we are blessed with that, but can we make money along the way? And I think that's going to be a challenge for not just this industry that's mentioned here, but for the combined communications, media, and entertainment industry, the CME industry, as we'd like to look at. So I'd urge that as you go through the evening, Let's look at CME in totality, which is communications, media, and entertainment, because the lines don't exist. I won't even say they're blurring. They don't exist. Literally today in the market, they don't exist. They might not be implemented that way, but they don't exist. Definitely not so in the consumer's mind. And how do we evolve business models? Technology will help us, and there's a lot to be done. I know we got AWS here who's going to talk to us about it. We got To The New who's going to talk to us about technology and so on and so forth. For someone like me with my experience set who's seen decades of things and tectonic shifts, it's a very exciting time to be in this space. But can we do some breakthrough innovation? I think that'll be very interesting to find out and figure out in this panel. So I'll pause. So while I've talked a little bit about how a very large traditional company has gone through digital transformation, my larger message was to bring my broader experience set over several decades to the table and say, can you guys brainstorm a little bit about CME and see what does that mean in terms of both behavior patterns and business models. The rest of it will just follow. But tackling that is not going to be straightforward. So with that, I'll pause. I think I have time for a few questions. If so, I'm happy to take a few questions.
I think Dr. Jayamanan mentioned quite well that it's time when you move from enterprise style to internet style. I think that's the message, and it's very loud and clear. So is there any question?
Cool. I think all's clear.
I think it's a wonderful audience.
Either all's clear or everything's muddled up, but that's okay.
So Menon, you have really articulated the message, and I'm sure everybody has grabbed the message. That's why there is no question. If there are any questions, they can be taken offline. Hold on.
Where do you see this media ecosystem and industry going in the next 5 years or 10 years from now? How do you visualize that?
I wish I knew the answer. But I do know one thing for sure. I think there's going to be continuous reinvention of business model. That means both revenue and cost. And you'll see a lot of actions on both lines, the top line and the middle belly, across, and more so for traditional players, because I think the pure play digital players like Scoop Whoop who's here, they started a bit later, so they already started with a different cost model. Typically, enterprise plays come with heavier cost models, be it technology, be it people, be it spaces. Thanks to folks like you, Amazon, AWS, and so on and so forth, who have brought forward platform services and cloud services and so on and so forth, cost models can change, can be more variabilized. So you go from a CapEx-oriented to an OpEx-oriented model. But that will apply a lot more in terms of content generation and content creation. It will apply a lot more in terms of people and organization strengths. It will apply a lot in terms of fixed assets. So I think the industry will evolve both on top line and in the middle belly. And that is already happening. I'm sure all of you are aware of it. That's already happening. But the larger question, if frankly, is what happens when industries collide? When the communications industry collides with the media industry, which has happened. I won't even say is about to happen. It's happened. And more of that will happen. And so when the communications industry is no longer about communications, what do you do? And what happens to media industry at that point in time? And how long will the valuation game go on? At the end of the day, the valuation game is nothing but let's have a hot potato, pass it on. The last guy holding is the fool at the end of the day. So how do you get out of that game? It's not going to go on forever. So I think true businesses have to be created. They have to be true profit and loss businesses. There have to be real monies involved. And so if you recall, and I recall this very well because I was still in my early stages in my professional career, when the first dot-com bubble was created, late 80s, early 90s in the US, and it burst. And I'm sure India has seen a couple of those bubbles as well. So I think this valuation game, we're already seeing a lot happening right now. So I would only say a lot of the evolution of the industry would depend on P&L, not valuation. As much as we'd like to believe it, it depends on valuation.
There's one more question.
Hi. Hi.
Hi.
You talked about this transformation. I wanted to pick your brains on this transformation that you're talking about is really not innovation. It's kind of forced. What are your thoughts? Because if this was an innovation, this would have been done a decade back by the telcos and the media companies. Do you really feel that it's kind of forced? Otherwise, these giants won't survive? I'm not talking about HT specifically, generally. I mean, the age-old giants, media giants, they won't survive the next decade of it if they don't transform. And so it's like forced.
It goes back to the business model, right? How do these companies make money? Through advertising. Now, advertising makes sense only if it generates a so-called response. So you got to go back to saying what generates response. I think it's continuously evolving, right? One might say, oh, digital is great, but how much of response does it actually generate? So you got to go back to the business model. So from that point of view, there isn't really a straightforward answer to that. The transformation was a necessity that had to get done. The only innovation that I can see is doing it either in a converged or an integrated manner, which I think is very bold, versus doing what 99.99% of media companies across the globe have done, which is create a different digital island. That is the only innovation, only one, right? Other than that, it is inevitable. It's the inevitability. It's the old steel mills problem that we all read books about, right? Going to your mini steel mills, right? So that's a given. I go back to business model. At the end, businesses exist to make money, not for valuation alone. Valuation is short-term game. That's why I go back to my opening remarks. How many companies have lasted 100 years? So for companies that seek to last 100 years, while it is seen as forced, it is also seen as something that says, we are going to make this work. So we're going to make some hard decisions to make it work, and which is what I'm seeing the boldness in where I am right now. But I go back to the macro problem, which is CME. If you guys can debate it during the course of the evening and kind of see where all of that is headed, it'll be interesting to crystal gaze and say, 3 years from now, what's it going to look like? Not even 5 years. Who would have thought? Let me ask a simple question. Who would have thought, whatever, 300 rupees, 400 rupees, all you can eat communications, and nearly all you can eat content, available everywhere, wherever the network works? Who would have thought? Right? It's there today in the market. I don't have to name brands. Everybody is going to eventually converge on that. So when business models change, I think the bigger question is impact on communications, media, and entertainment. What is that kind of digital transformation? I think that's where some of the changes will happen, and we're going to see things happen. Fortunately, in the financial services industry, you're seeing that change already through payment banks and, of course, through mobile payments, and through a lot of stuff that's happening with all the companies like Paytm, MobiKwik, et cetera. So again, go back to commerce, go back to communications, and go back to content, all coming together, all within a context. So companies who know, or ecosystems that know how to interplay with each other there, will actually survive. So jury's out. There isn't really a clear answer on this one. I wish I knew, but it's not that straightforward. By the way, there isn't any global model that we are following. It's not something it happened there and hence it's going to happen in India. I think we're going to be unique here. Sorry, you had a question.
Yeah. Hi. You talked about the integrated way of working, how you spoke about...
Just an interruption. May you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Shweta. I work with NDTV. I look after the software development and automation. And one thing that I've seen in my company, so now that, I told you that I work with NDTV, is that no matter how much you talk about integrated newsrooms and, getting all your people together to work as one team, on the ground reality is actually quite different, because the talent needed for, say, online news is very, very different from what you need for television, or in your case, in fact, print is, I would say, very, very different, right? So don't you think that no matter how, technically maybe we are able to integrate it, we can have the workflows where news stories are flowing from one platform to another, but the talent itself, people who are creating the content is very different. Is in your company, what's the case? What's your thought on that?
I think that's a very good question, and that's why I said the cultural transformation has been the most difficult and frankly the most surprising part. So we also suspected that. We also suspected that there'll be natural Chinese walls on the floor,
Yeah.
and that there'll always be the old guys looking at the new guys and saying, that's not me. But we are really surprised. We are genuinely surprised. So it's amazing to see for lack of a better term, the conversion. And the hunger to learn something new is it's very large. So the fallout is not as much as we thought it would be. In fact, we are like I said, we're genuinely surprised.
Sure.
So also, let's also bear in mind, it's only been a year or so now in this journey that we are live with this. And so, let's give it 2-3 years and see where we go. The other part is, you said online and print. The third part I'll inject is video.
Yeah.
Video and video creation is another. Obviously short form, not the broadcast variety. Yeah.
I think the rest of the questions can be taken offline. We'll move to the next presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Menon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next session is on digital media supply chain, delivery and publishing powered by AWS Cloud. So our next speaker is Deepak Kular, who is Head Media and Entertainment Services, India Amazon Web Services. To briefly tell you about Deepak, he loves numbers. He's passionate for digital media technologies with expertise in internet technologies, mobile, and cloud environments. In his presentation, Deepak will run you through the importance of cloud in your environment and how it can empower media organizations to leapfrog. He will also put focus on how media companies are leveraging cloud for better performance, scalability, and how they are using big data and analytics. So may I welcome Deepak Kular on stage.
I'll just take a minute to set up my laptop. For coming in huge numbers, and thanks especially to Dr. Jaiman for his enriching experience being shared on the stage. I've attended a lot of shows, but frankly the kind of information which was shared was immense. I'm kind of deeply honored. And I'm also honored to see some of our customers here who have been using AWS services as such for a long time, kind of different kinds of things which they've been doing for frankly 5 years plus now. We've got customers here, ABP News I see here, we also see Balaji, we see Scoop Whoop, we see Wink, we see Hindustan Times, not to forget. So the endeavor here for me is to talk about how AWS can help in terms of enabling and supporting the media ecosystem to achieve any new goals which we are seeing at this point of time, any new innovations which are coming up in this space. I was at NAB last month, and NAB is really the center of all global innovations which happen worldwide in the broadcast and media space. So I'll probably just give a glance as to what we are seeing here as far as all the new things which are coming up. And the first thing which we see here is channel playout. Now this is very typical to the broadcast industry. Typically we see all broadcast automation systems traditionally being on-premise. And what we saw there was most of the broadcast vendors which have been in existence for the last 20 years, they're all talking how they can move to the cloud. And the biggest reason for doing this is all flexibility. Content production owners are looking at all new ways and means to deliver live content, linear content to different consumers. So traditionally what we see, for example, we have NDTV here, and again NDTV is one of our big customers. So thank you. So typically there is a channel and there is content. Now the only way to deliver that content is through the channel, right? Which essentially is either in the broadcast space, and now people are also taking this for quite some time in the online space. But the content is still the same. Channel is still the same, which is getting delivered. Now the kind of content which we see is coming to our broadcast customers, and specifically in the video space, is immense. We have one of our customers who's traditionally a newspaper hub, and they are producing around 1,500 video clips a day. That's immense, right? So 1,500 clips coming in from all different places across India and then converging in different locations and different parameters in terms of which video to publish, which video not to publish, and different kinds of rating systems for cameramen, for journalists, for all different kinds of people. Since this is huge amount of content, now the channel play out is people what are trying to do is also to deliver live linear contents in the online space using the content which anyways is there with them. And this content also over a period of time being delivered in a linear mode to people who want to view only specific kind of content. So that was an eye-opener for us. The second one is virtual reality, 360-degree and 4K streaming. Again, this was the kind of things which we are seeing here is mind-boggling. We'll soon be supporting some of our broadcasters to deliver live 4K 360-degree content in the VR mode. So if you're viewing a cricket match and if you're wearing your VR glasses, you'll be as though sitting there in the right there in the stadium. So those are the kind of things which essentially we see could be the future as far as the technology is concerned. Then specific things like frame accurate live to VOD functionality. I have a demo there which I'll probably showcase going forward on this one. Then as Dr. Jay Menon mentioned in terms of the amount of content which is getting viewed and obviously the service providers coming and supporting them. But that also brings a challenge in the amount of content which needs to be stored. Now people are creating all 4K, HD and all different kinds of content, right? So content then also brings with it, there needs to be a space to store that content, right? And we've got all ways and means now available to also to smartly know as to what's there in the content. And then stuff like video editing in the cloud, that's also catching up in a big way. All kinds of online platforms to deliver live and video content and understand from them as to what really is getting done in the video space. And then obviously in the ad monetization space, again, new ideas, new innovations are coming up in terms of how can I monetize this content, both in the ad space, both in the subscription space. I'll speak about that in the due course of this presentation. So, and this was also one of the things which was done first time ever in the history using AWS and Elemental, which is a company which was bought over by AWS 1.5 years back. We did live 4K streaming from space to the NAB center. And this was at a delay of 11 seconds. No time in the past has this kind of a live streaming event has taken place. So this was the first time, and this again was an eye-opener as to how these kind of things are getting done right now and what really the future holds for us. It's really unimaginable to see. On the numbers side of it, and this is typically an example of where Netflix is going as far as their content consumption is getting concerned. And on the other side, we see where content is getting consumed in kinds of different tablets and where, and what we frankly see is now content is getting consumed in all ways and means of different kinds of devices, right? We see content getting consumed from Xboxes, we see content getting consumed from gaming consoles. We see content getting consumed from in the internet mode on set-top boxes, and we have one of our customers sitting back there from Tata Sky. Yeah, so different kinds and ways and means in which content getting consumed in different devices, and specifically in India, mobile has taken off in a massive way. So the most common trends which we see here are typically around these. The user experience, especially for consumers, if video is getting delivered, it has to be delivered in an optimal way. There's no second thoughts to experience. The video just can't buffer. And if it's news content, and if I'm a publisher or a broadcaster, I need my content to be up there and being available to the consumers as and when a breaking news happens. The time lag between publishing and then consuming has to be negligible. It's just negligible. We see anything has happened right now, it's just there in all sorts of portals and social the next second. Content monetization, yes, different, this definitely is a challenge, but as I said, different means are coming up in this space as well, and we have our customers here, and in fact, Old Balaji has been successful there. They've just launched the platform a month back, and they're already in the top earners in the OTT space as of now. And they've been pretty innovative in this space, so I'm sure you'll be talking about some of the innovative stuff which you've been doing in this space. But the bottom line here is analytics. Both important from understanding what the consumers are doing, their consumers' behavior, what kind of content they really are viewing, and what kind of content are they really publishing. So, so that is really, really important. And I'll talk about some of the ways and means whereby content can be further analyzed, consumers, what they view the content, how they're kind of viewing the content, how much are they viewing content, from which places they're viewing content, which browsers they're viewing the content. So I'll talk about all these ways and means, just to give an understanding of really how and what kind of content should be further produced so that the monetization can then be built around it. With these trends, we obviously see some of these points as far as if I launch a website, then obviously it has to be highly available, secure, scalable, consistent performance, and low cost. And we definitely do help in all these arenas as such, as far as this ecosystem is concerned. How does AWS come in and help, right? As Dr. Jay Menon also mentioned, so we've kind of moved away from a traditional model of CAPEX to an OPEX. We've moved away from that model of, okay, if you need to buy servers, order for the servers, and the servers would come, say, over a period of 2 months, 3 months. If I have an idea right now, I just need to implement it right now. So, and if I need to innovate, I should be given all the flexibility, ways and means to ensure that the technology supports in order to whatever innovations or whatever ideas I have to support it. And then obviously, with regards to ensuring that once I launch my platform, then it has to be highly scalable, it has to be highly secure proof, and we do have all the ways and means to provide support in that. Now, AWS history in India is as for the following. We launched our services first in July of 2013. We launched our first POP. This is the CloudFront POP, this is the CDN POP. We initially had 2 POPs, Mumbai and Chennai. Then we had the mega launch of our region, which was in June of last year. We then further invested in our CloudFront POPs, that's on the CDN side again. And today we've got 4 POPs, 2 in Mumbai, 1 in Delhi, and 1 in Chennai. And then we also launched a lot of our service around the transcoding space, both in the elemental side and in the elastic transcoding space in India. So if there are any requirements to do different kinds of transcoding, 4K, or different kinds of profiles being generated, the same can now be done from our India region. So this is how I'll talk about these three approaches which we generally see from our customer base. Typically, and this is with regards to customers, how they try to consume services of AWS. The first one being the services which are provided as solutions from AWS or Elemental in this forum. This typically is around video, transcoding, packaging, and then delivering. The second one which we have is around partner-based solutions. AWS is also very thankful to its partner ecosystem. The kinds of solutions which are built on top of AWS cloud to provide as solution offerings to customers. That's also very important what we see as far as our approaches to this ecosystem is concerned. The third one is typically build your own. Customers who've got huge engineering teams, development teams, they essentially try to make use of AWS to develop solutions for themselves in a custom way. And the biggest of broadcasters, I would say, are essentially going in that mode right now. But essentially, if there are customers who've got lean teams who are essentially more business-centric, that's where our partner ecosystem comes in and tries to provide solutions in any of the arena of solutions, which I'll be talking about on the next slide. So broadly speaking, these are some of the workloads which we solve and provide services to in the media space. So the first one is around content acquisition. Now, what are the ways and means available in AWS for the content to get ingested into the AWS, be it for storing, be it for processing, be it for rendering, be it for delivering. The second one is around asset management. Once the content comes in now, what are the kinds of services available to store content in the AWS space? Then stuff around production and post-production space, play out and distribution, as I was mentioning. We see play out and distribution also moving from the on-premise and onto the cloud now. The publishing space, then typically this has been the first workload which our customers started to use AWS for, either the storage or the publishing. OTT, I'll talk about OTT. At this time, OTT is extremely hot, especially after the success of some of the OTTs like Balaji or Hotstar, which are customers of ours. The media supply chain, right from ingest to delivery and analytics, and then I'll talk about the analytics and also artificial intelligence in the space. Briefly to talk about some of our customers here, we do have some of the customers represented in the room. But typically, if you see, we've got customers from different parts of media. We've got customers in the newsprint. We've got customers in the broadcast. We've got customers in the content production space. And then we've got customers in the aggregation space. And then we also have customers in the music aggregation and distribution space. And globally as well, that's kind of the same format. I'll also talk about some of the things which customers are doing very innovatively, customers like Netflix, or customers like Washington Post, or customers like Uyala, and so on. So as I was speaking on the previous slide, this is basically a block diagram of the specifics around the offerings which are available from a video or a media ecosystem per se for our media customers. In the content production space, we've got capabilities to do rendering jobs, video editing jobs in the cloud. In the content storage space, now what are the ways and means to ingest content? Now again, different ways and means are available to ingest content, then store content, then move content from our different flavors of storage. Then processing content, I'll talk about this in the following slides, but stuff like DRMs, integration being done at the encoder level or the transcoder level itself. And we've got like a services of Elemental can have interfaces up to 40 different kinds of DRMs which are available in the market as of now. Content distribution space, and then in the analytics space. So, and then in the artificial intelligence space as well. Stuff like what content is getting more popular, and if it's getting popular in say 30 minutes, then what's the probability for it to get further consumed in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. Different kinds of machine learning algorithms are getting built in order to give us data around this. As I said, we've got a rich partner ecosystem with each of the workloads which I mentioned on the previous slide. We've got partners available. The partners listed here are typically showcased here are our global partners, but we also have the Indian partners as well, offering services to each of these respective workloads. And again, some of the Indian partners have done very, very innovative stuff in the analytics or the artificial intelligence space or in the broadcast layout space. This probably is a diagram of it's got stuck. Yeah, so I'll just mention, so we initially talked about the content ingestion space. In the ingest space, we've got services such as Direct Connect, which is basically a service. Thanks, Vivek. I'll just move forward. Yeah, so in the ingest space, we've got these three services which are towards ingesting content into our storage or ingesting content into AWS. Starts from Direct Connect. Now, Direct Connect is a direct link which is available from the studios or the broadcast houses right into AWS. So very useful for news use cases wherein a lot of news content gets produced on a ready basis, on an everyday basis, and where content needs to be ingested in a regular supply and coming into the AWS region. So for those use cases, we see Direct Connect, and again, this is available up to gigabytes, GBPS scales, multiple GBPS scales from different locations in India. The second one is a service called Snowball. The use case for this, what we see is this basically is an appliance, and if we need to say ship 80 terabytes or 100 terabytes of content at one go. Now this is an appliance, it's a kind of a suitcase which you order online that is available on your premises. You ingest content in that suitcase kind of device and then gets shipped into the AWS region. So it can move around 80 to 100 terabytes of content at one go, and typically the cost of this for one transaction is only $250. Very useful for use cases wherein content needs to be moved, content which is already available, lift and shift decent amounts of content. What we also launched last reInvent, which was in November of last year, was a service called Snowmobile. Now this is a physical truck which got launched, and in fact in reInvent on the stage just next to the floor area, we had literally a truck coming in and then stopping there. This truck can essentially move 100 petabytes of content at one go. So the truck physically goes to the premises, puts the content in there in the truck, and then drives it and then puts the content into the AWS region. So that's the one which, and we've already starting to see examples of broadcasters trying to move those heavy volumes of content into AWS, either for storing or for processing. The third one is S3 transfer acceleration. Again, a mechanism available. We've got our CDN POPs, which typically till now have been for distributing content or delivering content from AWS to the consumers. But here comes a way wherein the same infrastructure can be used to ingest content into AWS. So all of our CDN POPs are directly connected to each other. We've got physical fibers running in between each of these. So if I need to ingest content, say into San Francisco, I can use the Delhi POP here, and this can, through our own paths, can take the content from Delhi into our regions in the US East Coast or the West Coast. So it's going to be much faster than traditionally if I need to, say, upload heavy files into the regions of AWS globally. So these three models available, and then we essentially come into a storage. Again, different kinds of storage available. The first one is S3, which I'm sure all of us definitely know, but this is a storage wherein we upload content into this and I immediately need to retrieve it. So that's the use case for this. The second one is infrequent access. I upload content into storage, but I probably will not require it frequently. I might just require it
after a certain period of time. And the third one is Glacier, which essentially is a cold storage. I just ingest content into storage, and I might just require it once in maybe 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. So it's a kind of an alternative to tape drives, and we've got solutions of asset management which are then built on top of these flavors. We also have capabilities to move content amongst these storages. So I'll take an example of news, right? So in news space, news content becomes stale maybe after 2 days or 5 days. And since the pricing is also a difference between, say, infrequent access and Glacier, there could be policies made wherein the content can move from S3 into Glacier in an automated fashion. Very useful for news broadcasters, and we see this being used in a massive way. This is the device which I was talking of, the Snowball. As I was saying, it can actually take now up to 100 terabytes, 80 terabytes of content per capacity. And very, very useful if there's any kind of a content which you have and which needs to be moved in. This definitely is the device which you should look at. We also have asset management solutions which can be used by some of our partners, or they can also be custom built. One of the very important use cases what we saw over here was, so asset management is one wherein you essentially tag content based specific files. It could be like a 5-minute file or a 10-minute file basis the metadata which you enter. But a use case what we've just recently launched is around artificial intelligence in asset management space. Now what happens is we break the file, the video file, into respective frames per second, right? So each of the frames which are represented in a video, we break them down into, say, each frame, say 16 frames in a second. And then we've got a service called recognition, which tries to identify as to what's happening in that thumbnail or in the image of the video. And then using that, we are able to tag these respective thumbnails with respect to any kind of useful information which we can derive out from that specific thumbnail. So that's a great use case which has just come in, whereby the content which is stored can be intelligently used to essentially find out what I need to find out in that video. So for example, I am an editor and I need to just prepare a story of, say, Modi visiting Allahabad at 6 p.m. an evening time. So I need to be right there in that specific file. Now traditionally, people would go and look into the different kinds of tape libraries and get the content and then try to search for that specific location where that scene is. But using recognition now, I can actually move right to that scene, prepare the content, and then essentially take it and move that into publishing. So that's a great use case which has come out using artificial intelligence. And I had a video, but I think we're kind of moving late in time. I'll talk about a customer example here, Netflix. Now the good thing, obviously they use a lot of our instances, between 50,000, 70,000 instances there. But one of the important things to see here, and Netflix content gets consumed on a lot of different devices. They essentially transcode this in more than 60 different retentions, output retentions. Different kinds of formats, different kinds of bit rates, but that's the kind of capacity in which they're trying to transcode this content. And this obviously is one of our biggest customers, but the kind of innovative things which they're doing is amazing to see. I'll talk about a bit on the OTT space. Now this is a typical architecture, what we generally see in the OTT space, in the video space. Now from this camera, this can either be a live video or this could be, say, a on-demand video that gets connected using any of the services which I've just spoken about in terms of direct connect or Snowball or transfer acceleration, gets into the AWS cloud in S3 or in other flavors of storage, gets transcoded using 2 flavors of transcoding which we have, either the elemental transcoding services or elastic transcoding services, get formatted into different formats and into different bit rates, and then the process feed goes into S3. From there it gets published using our CDN services onto the consumers. But what also can happen is using our services such as SNS, if a video did not process fully or if there was a problem in the video, then notifications can be sent to different people who are trying to either work on the video or uploading that video to essentially tell them that something was wrong. So this is a kind of a workflow which we see. What we've also launched very recently is if this could be, if this is like a live feed which is going into S3, and consider this to be a live feed, say going over direct connect, which is a consistent pipe, going into S3, we can essentially cut that live clip into pieces, right, into frames, into small clips, say 5 minutes or 1 minute, and then further break it down into those frames to understand what's happening in the thumbnail. And that essentially is also used to govern and build monetization logic as to where essentially should I place my ad, say in a VOD kind of an environment, or one of the other use cases of artificial intelligence which we've just kind of launched is if I have, and traditionally this is very true with broadcast feeds, and I have a broadcast feed and I have the broadcast ads running, but my digital requires digital ads, right? So this mechanism can essentially find out when the broadcast feed is switching to an ad feed, and at that specific instant of time, it can actually throw in a request either to an ad server to send in to ask for an ad, or the ad could already be there in S3 from where it could play. So all different kinds of mechanisms coming in for the content to be delivered, rendered, consumed, analyzed, and monetized. Digital publishing, we have all these different flavors of platforms which we support, so I'll not talk much, we all understand this. Some of our digital publishing customers in this space, The Guardian is one of our customers which has been with us for a long time, and one of the critical problem statements with them was they needed to understand what consumers were doing with the content. What kind of content were they consuming? And then they used our analytics capabilities to build a solution around the entire analytics logic. I'll talk a bit about our CloudFront capabilities. Now, in total, we've got 73 POPs right now. Our CDN has been extremely popular. We have a lot of customers, approximately in the range of 14 to 15,000 customers in India on CloudFront. And the biggest customer we have on our CDN is obviously Amazon.in, which runs exclusively on Amazon CDN. We've got customers like our own Amazon Prime is a great customer. One of our customers is sitting right here in the room, which is Alt Balaji, which essentially uses us right from the ingestion to the distribution side, right from ingestion to storage to processing, and then on the CDN side in a massive way. Some of the use cases in the CDN space. Now, this is a great use case for live. And this is of the FIFA World Cup of last time. Now here what we were doing was we were taking in feeds from Rio, and we were processing these feeds in a totally separate continent, which was Dublin. We had 48 concurrent streams which were coming in from each of the respective stadiums. And all of these feeds were coming into the AWS region, being processed there. A certain amount of playlists were also getting generated in the cloud. And then depending upon which content needs to be switched in for play, all of that processing was also being done in the cloud. So storing, live delivering, and then also analyzing on what was happening on these feeds. This is an example of a VOD use case. Now we do have lots of solutions available in the VOD space as well, right from storing to transcoding to analyzing. Through our partner ecosystem, we also have partners who essentially can tag around and bring in the ads, say in the backfill ads which are there, or ads which essentially give high premiums, and also analytic solutions as a comprehensive solution. Analytic solutions not just for the entire media video delivery, but also the entire ads campaign management around it. So let us know if there are any of your requirements of video publishing, and then we can accordingly suggest you the right solution. As far as our media analytics are concerned, we broadly see this in 4 block areas, either in the content, to understand what really is happening with the content, which is the top content, what is the kind of engagement of my content, are people viewing the entire content or people are just tipping away, what's the kind of audience base of my content, and then also around the operations in terms of, is my content really buffering, and all sorts of data around QoS, and also all this content is getting fed back to the business teams to either prepare what kind of content I need to prepare, or if my content is getting delivered, it's say in a specific territory, then what kind of ad networks do I bring in so as to give the best buck for that specific content. This is a block diagram of how this happens in the AWS space, right from storage to event processing to data processing, and then again on publishing side of it on the dashboard. So we've got different ways and means and capabilities available to provide this as a service. So in the summary, I would suggest that your customers will obviously consume content in different ways and means. That obviously provides different kinds of monetizing capabilities and challenges. And we do have services and all technology available to provide solutions with respect to each of these different arenas. So please do let us know if there's any interest in any of the areas, and we can definitely help and provide you solutions there. I think I overrun my time in a big way, but thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Deepak. I think the questions can be taken after this. So without further ado, I would like to invite our next speaker, who is Narendra Kumar. He had his EVP Technology Services at To The New. He will run you through some of the global examples of how companies and media companies are utilizing digital and transforming their businesses. So without further ado, I would like to invite Narendra on stage. Narendra.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming and sparing a Friday evening with us. And apologies that we are running quite late. I'll try to move fast. Quick introduction about us, To The New. We are a technology services organization. We are helping organizations in the digital. Hello? Okay. So we are a technology organization helping organizations traversing through the digital transformation journey in different forms and ways. And I would like to talk about some of the experiences in next 20-25 minutes about what are our experiences across different media and entertainment organizations. So let's get started. This is me. I head technology at To The New. It has been 3.5 years. We are a young organization. We have been little around 10 years. During this time period, we have worked with organizations around the globe, from internet product startups to Fortune 500 organizations. I have myself been working in the industry for 21 plus years, and throughout this 21 years, my focus has been towards software development and design. I still consider or carry myself as a developer, though a lot more time gets spent into PowerPoints and Excel sheets now. But the plan is that we would like to touch upon what we think is the current media and entertainment industry landscape today. We would like to talk about some of the trends and priorities which we are seeing from a service integrator point of view, from a technology service provider point of view, what customers are asking and what are the challenges they are facing and the constraints. And then lastly, I would like to talk about some of our experiences, how we have been steering through those challenges, steering through those requirements. Quickly, we have already talked about this, but digital entertainment space is getting more and more crowded. There have been big players, Airtel, Tata Sky is there in the room, and Dish TV. Then there are a lot of new players are coming, both global as well as local players. We have Amazon Prime Video, Netflix, and then we are TVF and Wink. We are having presence from Wink also here. So this is getting more and more competitive, and similar to digital entertainment, we are seeing the same thing happening in the news segment. These are established players. We just heard from Dr. Menon that Hindustan Times is a 100-year-old organization, and then these are getting pushed and given competition from both Indian digital players, international, as well as social media networks. Now Twitter, Facebook, they are also in a way news and media organizations in different forms. All right. Still, content and platform enablement is happening. It's still catching up. We see that English language content is much more pervasive as compared to, especially in Indian space, that a lot of vernacular languages, the digital content is much lower in terms of penetration as compared to English. Digital news is the same story. Lot more print is happening, though there is tremendous growth, but this is still catching up. And monetization models, they are evolving. We are seeing like these 4 models. There is free content, free plus subscription, or transaction, or just subscription. And I've put in some details which are based out of publicly available data, but they might be a bit dated. This is a continuously evolving space. So apologies in case these things are not reflection of the current state. So this was just a snapshot of where we are in terms of both media and entertainment industry, both in terms of what is happening and also how content is shaping up. I would like to just quickly talk about what we see as trends and what are the priorities which our customers are facing. Lot of us have heard about it. Video is becoming new form of content, and slowly we see that it is becoming more and more, and it is going to become nearly the primary media of consumption. In India especially, mobile has just gone through a complete revolution. We are seeing the mobile video traffic growing more and more fast as compared to going through web, and it has the potential to grow even faster. 60% of the overall media data and traffic is expected to grow tremendously in next 5 years. These are all the data which we have collated from different research agencies, and so this is happening in India, this is happening globally. Personalization, users want more and more personalized content, and this is depending upon multiple attributes. These are basis their what is their location, what is their language preference, but what is the kind of content which they have watched in previously, what are the people in their kind of physical or age group are watching. They would like to be aware about it, and they would like the content to be continuously evolving and improving. It is not enough to have general purpose recommendation, but more and more personalized. Everybody has to have unique ways of consumptions, and they would expect the media and entertainment agency to cater to those needs. User experience, working application is not good enough, and we as users are spoiled by choices. We look at an application through our mobile phone, and in case the video is buffering or it is slow, we just flip over to another app, and we do not benchmark a media and entertainment application or consuming the content by its peers, but we also look at completely different applications and say, okay, that experience is much more superior, and this is getting more and more competitive, and it is getting one of the key factors about differentiating. Data and analytics, again, from both ways. From a user point of view, users want publishers to anticipate their needs, to understand what they have consumed, and basis that they would like content to be served. But from an advertiser's point of view also, they would like to know to whom these advertisements are being served, so that they get better return of investment. They want to have more and more fine-grained thought rather than in a traditional media where the advertisements are thrown to anybody or anyone who is watching that content. It is even more important in the digital space. Omnichannel, we all are users of multiple devices and we would like to have the same and seamless experience when we move from mobile to a tablet and from tablet to desktop, and we do it multiple times during the day. And more users are having the same kind of behavior, are using multiple devices, and they expect the similar kind of experience. They want the platform to be aware from where they left a particular video, and it should start from there rather than them doing anything about it. Increased competition, we talked about traditional players and then lot of new players.